You guys, I haven't been so excited about first-person shooters since...
Levolution is the next step in player choice.
Or maybe, yeah, I loved it, but I couldn't recommend it to anyone.
Mr. Scrooge! I want some fucking Star Wars! Me off with you!
Join me, and I will complete your...
Nah, Battlefield forever.
Europe, 100 years ago. Superpowers and their alliances rule the continent. The Triple Entente, consisting of Great Britain, France and Russia, controls East and West. Between these countries lies the Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria-Hungary and Italy. For years, these countries have been arming for war, a war for supremacy in Europe.
But first, let's be honest here, it's still very much a Battlefield game.
We have lost objective Duff. We are losing objective Duff.
So you choose your soldier specialization type, customize the weapon and gadget loadout with options for buying and unlocking new types as you play the game. Spawn on a limited and rather small map, or maybe just call it a war scenario. And you shoot.
We have taken objective Charlie.
Score some cash. Score some points and get promoted. Die. Ride some classics.
We have taken objective Duff. Return to the combat area.
Yep, you can finally do this shit. And die. Blow stuff up. And get blown up. Drive over some casuals. And die. And die. I love it.
Patrolling in
So my opinion is biased, just like everyone else out there. If you're looking for something new, you won't find it here. But if you're a Battlefield fan like me, it's a breath of fresh air after so many Modern Warfare adaptations. It improves upon previous games almost across the board. I mean, just look at those physics. I would argue that most games haven't moved anywhere since the introduction of current generation of consoles back in 2013. The technology and power limitations are evident. Developers and publishers simply stop taking chances and are focused on moving as many copies of each game as possible across all platforms, with the exception of maybe Star Citizen and other PC exclusives. By homogenizing games or targeting lowest common denominator, consoles have lost their individual uniqueness in the process, becoming more like a living room computer, and in some ways new PC hardware is rendered trivial if only to achieve the insane 4K resolutions with playable frame rates. DICE took a chance and presented an alternative direction to the Modern Warfare craze since 2007 and demonstrated that the World War I game can be fun and popular. It's also a bigger leap in graphics technology than Battlefield 3 was to Battlefield 4, and it's likely to become a new benchmark. Curiously, the first big PC game from DICE after they've merged with the Refraction Games was called Codename Eagle. It was set in 1917 Russia and it followed alternate history. It predated Battlefield 1942 but used pretty much the same Refractor engine. I think this has something to do with current game's name having a number 1 in it. According to a developer tweet, Battlefield 1 will include British, German, Austro-Hungarian, Italian, Ottoman and American armies, 2 of which were introduced in the closed alpha, Brits and Germans. Quite odd to skip 2 of the most important World War I sides, France and Russia. And they later mentioned that French are coming in downloadable content, but nothing about Russia so far. So I'll be speculating here, and this is my thesis. As with Battlefront, not all DLCs were announced when the game was shipping. My guess it will be coming as a DLC, and it might have reference to the first major game, Codename Eagle, featuring 1917 Russia, and perhaps it will be set in alternate history. Battlefield 1 is developed by DICE, but published and owned by Electronic Arts, and if you haven't been following the gaming industry, you should know that this company has pretty poor reputation online. Although I think they have been trying to improve their relationship with gamers, specifically PC community, by offering free games on Origin, which is basically their version of Steam, and seemingly being quote-unquote friendly to social media content creators. It's still quite obvious that Electronic Arts is trying to influence the market by sponsoring big YouTube channels and getting them to hype up their games. This trend sets a dangerous precedent for trust and integrity of reviews and recommendations for future EA titles. One of the reasons why so few previews of Battlefront criticize its blatant lack of content. There are quite a few major YouTube personalities on sponsorship and some sort of deals already. However, this state of affairs is even worse than major gaming portals and their sponsored reviews. At least when you go on IGN or whatever and read the next Call of Duty review, all you have to do is check those 7 Modern Warfare ads all over their website. Then you know why it scores so high every time. With that out of the way, I also have to say I'm not sponsored by anyone, and I do recommend this game. At least try get into upcoming open beta, which starts the 31st of August. In order to get in, you have to sign up with Battlefield Insider on the official website. With Battlefield 1, I feel like there are bigger technological and gameplay leaps than going from Battlefield 3 to Battlefield 4. Randomized structural destruction is finally back from Bad Company 2 and is definitely improved upon.
We have taken objective Echo.
Now individual vehicle parts can be blown off and disabled, and it's all visually represented.
We are losing objective Freddy.
It doesn't seem to suffer from death lag experienced on the launch of Battlefield 4, and by death lag I mean low tick rate of server to client, resulting in you dying even if you run behind the cover. as the server fails to register your movement or enemy fire properly, resulting in some annoying moments. Moments like in this clip, total mess. Tanks are finally able to drive up on moderately elevated surfaces and even get through some walls and destroy vehicles and some of the softer buildings. This is probably the first one in Battlefield franchise. The online experience can vary from total mayhem of 64-player clusterfuck to stealthy lone wolf single-player-like experience, as you might have noticed in some previous gameplay clips. Add in dynamic weather and almost no game feels the same. For example, St. Quentin Scar map from the alpha had 3 distinct weather types: clear daylight, heavy rain and heavy fog. Felt like enemy players had a hard time spotting me during foggy environment, and stealthy gameplay becomes a possibility.
We are losing objective Edward. We have taken objective Duff.
But personally I enjoy chaos and destruction and be in the heart of the action. It runs quite well for an alpha, and things can only improve from here. I've played on both default and overclocked GeForce 1080, a 6-core i7 6850K processor at 4 GHz and 32 GB of RAM at 1440p medium settings and later on all ultra settings. While visually there were some differences, the frame rates were stable on both settings, losing about 20 to 30 FPS going to ultra. It did push my system to the max, so you could probably test your overclocks, whether they're stable or not. It feels a lot like Battlefront in terms of scale and speed. My best guess is a modified version of the same engine. Flapping trench cloaks look a lot like a Darth Vader cape from previous games, so expect the same system requirements and performance to be about the same as well. There are 4 main infantry classes, plus pilot and tank driver. If you choose to spawn in a vehicle, you automatically assume one of the latter two. Both pilot and tank driver weapons are quite adequate at close quarters, but not so much at the distance. The assault class has an anti-tank gun. Medics can drop health packs and revive dead players. Support will carry extra ammo packs and large long-range machine gun, which automatically deploys when you go prone. I felt like support was the least played during alpha. Could be just my experience though. And of course you have your typical sniper class, Scout.
We have taken objective butter.
An enemy objective is fallen. Our men have got it.
We are losing objective Charlie. We have lost objective Charlie.
Our enemy has taken our objective.
We are losing objective Edward.
See what
We have taken objective Apples.
boys are gaining ground.
We have lost objective Edward. We have
I have eyes on a shock trooper. Enemy medic.
We have taken objective Charlie.
I'm pretty sure everyone carries anti-tank grenades.
Throwing grenade. Watch it.
I've got to try British and German armies on a typical battlefield conquest mode, where each army starts at the far end of the map and fights for control points, which are far more important than just killing enemy players if you want to win the game. An interesting new change to Battlefield franchise is how vehicles enter the game map. Tanks and airplanes do not just spawn and stay idle at their base. Instead, when their usability timer is ready, it will be available for selection to those players who are about to respawn in a game and are waiting in the selection menu. Simply point your cursor over the gear or propeller icons on the map and you can choose from 3 variants of tanks or planes, basically classed as heavy, medium and light. Heavier vehicles can house more players and require more teamwork to be efficient in the field. But I'm pretty sure if tanks are not being selected, after a while they will spawn and idle at some locations on the map. And that's why sometimes you can see vehicles being manned by normal soldier class rather than the specialized tank driver. These are old school weapons of war, so the bullet drop is pretty big. I really like this cannon, especially in the reloading animation.
We have lost objective Charlie.
Something about your enemies dying without knowing where the fuck the shit's coming from. So finally, are there any issues? And I would say yes, specifically the plane-flight physics and how wonky it looks like sometimes.
We are losing objective Butter. We have lost objective Brody.
There are some weird graphical issues, but I'm sure DICE will fix them by release, right?
Erste Hilfe, nimm schon!
We are losing objective Butter.
And my last wish, please decrease the object pop-up, at least on PC. Hmm? I had tons of fun, and this is the closest thing to Medal of Honor or nostalgia I never knew I had. Even as a multiplayer game, it nailed that feeling somehow. Maybe it was automated infantry shouts and different languages and quirky encounters. For example, like this one, where the enemy player kept trying to hide from my firing range by staying close to the tank. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, go ahead. And for Mother Russia. See ya.